these memories that I have of Magic are important to me, and they shaped me. And it's okay that they're changing and Magic's becoming something else, because I can take those and do something with them.
Distraction makers.
Okay, let's talk about the big announcement that Universes Beyond is now Magic. It's now in every format.
Yeah.
There's no escaping it. It is now part of the history of the entirety of the game.
Yeah. Which not a lot of people seem to be super stoked.
I mean, there's a vocal...
Hard to say.
I don't know if
the
it's
data.
majority or minority. I have
Right.
no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it does seem like there's definitely been a big negative reaction to this announcement.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about, like, I guess, how we got here, and what we think this means for the future of the game.
Before we join the rest of the Magic community and complain about Universes Beyond, please, if you like our content, give us a little like and subscribe, maybe a comment down below. Also, if you're interested in joining our Discord, you can find a link to that in our description of the video. And today's video is brought to you by...
My Game! Bullets and Teeth and Aliens is a 2 to 5 player cooperative card game about blasting space bugs and getting paid. It's on Kickstarter right now. We just added some new things to the campaign. You can get play mats with my art on them, and we added a reprint of the first game. So if any of that sounds cool to you, you can find a link to the Kickstarter in the description below, and I appreciate everybody's support. Thanks for backing the project so far. Back to the video.
MagicCon Vegas happened this last weekend as of recording this. Recording this on Tuesday, following Tuesday afterwards. What they announced is that Universes Beyond, yes, is now standard legal. Standard being the sort of like sacred format that was, I think, never meant to be something that was going to be affected by Universes Beyond. And on top of that, they also announced more Universes Beyond sets coming out at I think they've kind of been doing this cadence, but now I think what it means is that we're going to have 6 sets a year in standard. Which is, I think, on average, it was 3 to 4 a year.
We're gonna try to, like, this is gonna be some personal opinion, but and some of it is gonna be, really we're gonna try to focus on, like, the product design implications of this choice.
Yeah, I think it's good to get out right off the bat that we're not inherently like super negative about this. There's been a lot of negative. We have our own opinions, but we're not going to be like, this is dumb. Why is Wizards doing this?
Right.
Like, there's no point in us complaining or discussing that.
Right. And I think what's more important is to talk about what is there to learn from this.
Yeah.
And like where we're at as a culture in terms of IP soup. Like everything is everything. And for me, I remember when the Walking Dead stuff was released, and I was furious. I was like, "This is." I remember having that initial. Seriously,
you were one of the Redditors.
Oh yeah, man! I was so like, I'm like, what in the world are you doing? Like, why would you do this? Why do you think that this is the future of this game? And why are you violating this thing that I held sacred? Right. Mm-hmm. And then I think, over the course of the sort of years since, I've taken Magic is more at arm's length for me now. Like, I'm not as invested as I was, which is funny because we talk about Magic twice a week. But, we're Magic for me at this point is more of a thing I study than it is a thing that I play, which is sad. But, Magic's always been a huge part of my life, and extremely influential on me as a designer. But yeah, I mean, I remember being very frustrated. And so, when this announcement came, I think I was kind of I feel like I had already grieved the loss, I guess. And I think a lot of people didn't want to believe that this is where we were going to end up. And this is the beginning of the grieving process, I think. I want to linger a little bit longer on the kind of betrayal that I think a lot of players are feeling. Because there was a point in time where players were reassured that this wasn't going to happen.
Right. So you talked about Walking Dead being the first one. I kind of vaguely remember there being a response from Wizards that was like, okay, we hear you. We're sorry. We will now do Universes Within, which is in-world cards, like within the Magic IP and universe of these cards. It's not going to be unique Walking Dead exclusive cards, right? Where you have to play as Rick Grimes.
Right. The idea that you have to play Rick Grimes in your white weenie deck is like, you know.
And so I think it sounded like Wizards at that time, this was years ago at this point. I don't remember what year that happened. It was like 2013 or 14 or
there were the sort of pervasive message coming from Wizards was, if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it, and we'll take that as feedback, and we'll they talked about universes within at the time, which hasn't happened for every card that's come out. It happens for some, but not all.
Yeah.
But I do think that Lord of the Rings was really the paradigm shift, where...
And that was probably the set most people were fine with, which is funny. Yeah. I think most people were like, yeah, Lord of the Rings, that's
right,
close enough.
I think quite a few people were fine with Lord of the Rings and D&D.
Yeah.
Like the D&D crossover makes total sense.
Yep. I think more people were upset by Neon Dynasty Kamigawa sets than the actual...
Which turned out cool.
Turned out fine.
I think everybody was okay with it after the set came out. But once the Lord of the Rings set comes out and it ends up being the highest grossing Magic set of all time, or the set that's made the most money ever, whatever, I think at that point it's like, it feels inevitable that like this is just going to be a part of the game moving forward. We've talked a little bit about this before, but like, it's really difficult if you're someone like a game designer or an art director or a game director or whatever to explain to the people that are like, this needs to make the most money possible. It's like basically impossible for you to say, well, this is going to hurt the game. And they're like, okay, how is making $1 billion going to hurt the game?
Right.
Right. Like, how do you even, you have nothing to stand on other than vibes.
You can look at the reaction that players are having online and be like, look, this is killing the game. But if like the data you're seeing, and it's primarily like money,
is positive.
And if that's what they have to go off of, they're looking at money higher. Even if players are sad or mad or whatever,
it doesn't really matter if line goes up.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think Magic will be fine. I think that it'll continue on, and this will, Magic's always been a game about change, and so this is another change that Magic's going through. I think this is a particularly painful one, especially for people that have been playing the game for a long time, especially those that were invested in the Magic story and the Magic characters, and also in the artistry, right? I think that there's Magic has been the foremost commissioner, I guess, of modern fantasy art. Like there's an art movement that has been birthed out of Magic. There's a lot of creativity that has gone into the game itself because art directors have been given the leeway to be experimental. And some of the best pieces of modern fantasy art have come from Magic. And I think that is a little bit at the core of what some people are responding to here without maybe articulating it in that way, is that if so many of the cards are now other IP, you don't have the same opportunity to do that kind of thing.
Right. You could attempt. You get these artists to go and illustrate these, and I think like they're going to do a great job, but sometimes it's like you're trying to capture a different universe's, like a different IP,
and they have their own style guides, and they have their own style guides, expectations, and players need to recognize those characters, and they need to be front and center. And you're not going to get something like the art on like Surgical Extraction. That's not going to be something that shows up in a Universes Beyond set. And that's just one example, but there's thousands of examples of art like this. So I don't want to be all doom and gloom here. Okay, I'm gonna restart the doom, the non-doom. So let's talk a little bit about other examples that we have of companies that have navigated this kind of situation in I think a fairly healthy way. And the one that immediately comes to mind is Lego. That Lego has, their own worlds. And they also do a lot of IP crossover. Right. And, you can have something like, I think if you took like a Lego guy, a Lego figure, and you showed it to anybody, they'd go, oh, that's Lego, right? Like almost anybody would immediately recognize it as like, that's their brand identity, is the little Lego person.
Magic's is their frame.
Okay, well, that's, whatever. We're not dooming, all right? This is a little bit hopium, okay?
No, it wasn't doom. What are you talking about?
Gross. also, so that the main like Lego figurine people are going to recognize, a Lego brick people are going to recognize, and then you start to get more into Lego's IP. You've got stuff like Ninjago. There's like pirate stuff that's been popular in the past. There's the castle stuff. There's Bionicles,
the best one.
Yeah, definitely. And that stuff can coexist with Lego sets like Harry Potter or Star Wars or whatever else they're teaming up with at the time. I would wager a guess that maybe the Star Wars stuff sells better, and that's just what they have done, and it's been this way for a long time. And I know that early on when they started doing these crossovers, that there was speculation or hesitation at the company for doing these crossovers. I think that they were in a similar way here. They were concerned that this was going to sort of erode the identity of Lego's brand. And I don't think that's been the case long term. But there's pretty key differences between Lego and Magic.
Yeah, you're not forced to use Lego pieces, but if you want to play Magic and you want to play Standard, you might need to play Spider-Man now. Now, technically, you can make the argument that you don't have to, and you can technically play the game without playing any of these cards. But it's sort of like, yeah, you can play the game, but if you want to play it in a particular way, you have to do this. I think part of the controversy of Lego, from what I remember back in the day, was that Lego pieces, in particular, and unique Lego pieces, was something that was harder to come by. And people, I don't think, wanted to have to buy a whole box to get a unique type of Lego piece, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, interesting.
Because then suddenly you had to go and buy a Star Wars thing or whatever, because it was the only one that had this unique piece printed that you could only use to make other things. So
similar problem.
It's a similar problem here, where, yeah, technically you don't have to do it, but if there's this one card that offers this one ability and it's the only card that does that, that's the card that you have to play with, whether you like it or not. And I think that this isn't going to bother everyone. There's been plenty of people that have gone online already and spoken about how they don't really mind this, and they don't mind if they have to play Spider-Man, and that's whatever. Personal anecdote is that a little while ago when I was working on a commander deck, I was building a Hilda of the Ice Crown deck or something like that. And I was looking at cards that I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was cards that offered some sort of extra draw power. And saw Danny Pink. So Danny Pink is a legendary creature, 3 and a blue. Creatures you control have, whenever one or more counters are put on this creature for the first time each turn, draw a card. And so Hilda can put counters on creatures. And so I saw this card and I was like, oh, I really like that effect. I really want to have that in my deck. And I tried finding cards that had a similar effect, and there was nothing. And I found, like, okay, well, this is pretty much the closest I can get. I actually found an entire Reddit thread of someone else asking the same thing of, is there an alternative to Danny Pink? And someone was like, just play with it. And here's the thing. Of course, I played with the card because I'm not, like, stubborn. But yeah, it is a little weird that, like, I don't know this character. I've never watched Doctor Who. I'm not really a big fan of it.
Right, you have no connection to this.
I have
IP.
no connection whatsoever, and I would have more of a connection if it were more of an in-world thing, because I at least understand the totality of what that means in the world here, right? I know what Ravnica is because I see all these Ravnica cards, I see the world. The world is on the cards here. It's not a show I have to go and watch and get myself immersed into in order to understand what's happening.
So another thing I think it's important here, I think a lot of people's response has been that Magic's IP was just like, oh, it was never that good anyway, like who cares, And I think that like that doesn't matter, right? The thing that we say all the time is like every game is someone's favorite game, right? And so yeah, like there's tons of joy and value to be found within these worlds that the teams at Magic have put together and made, and like those things aren't gone. I think that's the hardest part here. Is it feels like it's almost inevitable that like Magic IP will fade away because it's so much easier to just borrow somebody else's.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a little bit of, I think a big part of why this is happening is because they want to be releasing sets much more often, and so building a world or even shaping an IP that's going in a new direction and very rapidly is difficult. Yeah. So I think, I hope what comes from this is that we get the Magic sets that are original IP that come out are handled in a much better way. And we don't end up with stuff that's like Ravnica people wearing detective hats.
How do you feel overall? How are you feeling?
Like I said at the beginning of the conversation, I have been sort of coming to terms with the death of Magic for me for quite a while now. And so I've already, I don't want to say I've already I've moved to acceptance, I'm in acceptance phase, I think, in that maybe not, maybe still denial, but it's a different kind of denial. 'Cause it's like, you know what? These memories that I have of Magic are important to me and they shaped me. And it's okay that they're changing and Magic's becoming something else because I can take those and do something with them.
I was going to say, I think you and I maybe have a little bit different. We might not be quite as upset as other people because I think you and I probably have a similar reaction where we go, oh, well, we don't like that, but that's okay because we're just going to go make our own thing.
I think having a healthy outlet, having I think it helps you feel like you have a little bit of control in a situation or something where something feels like this thing was so important to me and immediately it's snatched away from me, or that's what it feels like. It's still here, but it's not the same. And it's not supposed to be the same. Things are supposed to change. Things are supposed to be different. Magic's a game about change. But I do think that as an artist, a designer, as an individual, you can take these experiences that you've had that shaped you, and you can turn them into your own creations. You can turn them into something new. You can find a community of people that have similar feelings to you and build something.